Everywhere you turn, it's AI this, chatbot that, and if you have spent any time talking about large language models lately, you've probably heard these two words, RAG and fine tuning. But what do they really mean? And which one should you use when building your next AI powered tool? That's what we'll look at, and I promise by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which side you're on. Here's the issue. LLMs like GPT, Claude, LLaMA, and Gemini are trained on massive amount of text, everything from literature to Reddit threads, and a lot more information available on the internet. But that training usually stops at a certain date. It doesn't know about your company's policy, for example, or the latest data from your yesterday's report. That's where customization comes in. And that's where fine-tuning and RAG take very different paths. Think of fine-tuning like sending your model back to school. You take the base model and train it on your specific data. Maybe medical notes, legal contracts, or your brand's tone of voice. Over time, it learns deeply and starts to sound like a domain expert who has read everything in your field. Pretty cool, right? Imagine you're building a customer support bot for a hospital. A fine-tuned model would know the medical terminology inside and out because it's been retrained with thousands of real cases. It won't hallucinate as much and it feels naturally fluent. But here's the catch. It's expensive. You'll need computer power, curated data, and time. And once it's trained, updating it can be tricky if the world changes quickly. Now let's talk about RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. Instead of retraining the model, RAG gives it superpowers by connecting it to an external memory. When you ask a question, it first retrieves information from a database or maybe a document store, then generates an answer using that context. Say you're asking about today's Google stock price. A fine-tuned model trained last year's data won't be able to give you the right answer, but a RAG-powered one can. It'll search your finance database and make any API calls for any of the pricing information and instantly give you the answer that's valid today. You could think of RAG as giving your AI a live internet connection, but only to trusted sources and your information. It's amazing for fast-changing fields like finance, news, or customer support. At a high level, if you think about fine-tuning and RAG, what the pros and cons would look like when we look at it from the knowledge depth, fine-tuning would have a deep internalized expertise. RAG would be more factual and dynamic retrieval. From the cost point of view, fine-tuning cost would be high upfront because now you have to train or retrain the model. And RAG would be lower upfront cost but higher cost over the life of the application because you need operational setup. Fine-tuning is good when your information updates slowly over a period of time. And RAG's good when changes instantly, constantly keeps changing. And that's where fine-tune is best for specialized tone or reasoning, and RAG where you have constantly changing info or the information that you want to bring up as part of your application should be current. Now there's also a world where you can use a combination of two, RAG and fine-tuning combination. Here's the secret. It doesn't have to be RAG versus fine-tune all the time. Some use cases, you fine-tune your model for tone, reasoning style, and expertise, then layer RAG on top of it, fetch the latest information. Say you're building an AI financial advisor. You fine-tune on books and training data about the investment strategy so the model sounds smart and insightful. Then you plug in RAG to give it today's market data. Boom, instant hybrid intelligence. This combo means you get the best of both worlds, learned expertise and real-time awareness. But you don't have to always have the combination of two, and it goes back to whether RAG or fine-tune. Microsoft, for example, uses RAG for dynamic queries inside Teams Copilot. Financial institutes typically fine-tune chatbots for compliance and tone consistency. In both the cases, there are different goals and hence different tools and techniques. So, fine-tune or RAG? Here's the takeaway. Fine-tune teaches AI who it is. RAG tells it what's going on in the world right now. If you learned something, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment below which one you use in your next AI project.